Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel, RS Squared Technologies. I am your host, Ryan, and today I'm going to kind of do a continued intro video discussing, again what this channel is about and future uploads and kind of the upload schedule. So I have started RS Squared Technologies as a channel where I will be uploading tutorial videos which are going to be based off the Beginner's Guide to SOLIDWORKS 2022, Level 1 to Start, and this book is an SDC publication, and when I do start this video playlist, I will leave a link where you can purchase this book to follow along if you would like. My plan is every Friday I will be uploading videos related to this unofficial guide follow-through, and on Wednesdays I will be uploading videos for fun, whether it be a challenge that you, the followers, have me do, or just something at random that I just kind of choose. Now these Wednesday uploads are going to be very informal, kind of just, if you will, in a sense unfiltered, where there'll be kind of a non-stop recording and I will just literally kind of come up with something that I want to draw, design, or something, and maybe a challenge or something like that, and I'll just go through it and model it and or in turn create an assembly. There may be multiple parts for a particular thing, or it may be all in one shot. I have no real specific parameters for these Wednesday uploads. Again, those ones are more for fun. They're what some might call quick and dirty. I'm not going to be very nitty gritty and being like, okay folks, you're going to need to click here, click there, click this. It's going to kind of be a little bit more fast paced and for fun. But my Friday uploads are going to be very precise tutorials, again based on this book here, where I'm going to go step by step through this book, chapter by chapter, covering in very fine detail how to do the operations within that book. That way you can actually learn something and hopefully take away something valuable from it. And as always, I am working on a Windows 10 operating system, and I am also working with SOLIDWORKS 2022. So, to start, let's go into another basic part. Last time I made a cube, so this time I'm going to make a cube with a little bit more flair. Okay, so open up SOLIDWORKS as usual to begin this. If not, watch and you can follow along later if you want. So I'm going to choose File, New, Part, and hit OK. Now, I'm going to choose the front plane. You can choose whichever plane you want. But for this particular situation, you will find that you are going to need to choose a specific extrusion parameter so that certain things come together properly and not all wonky. So I'm going to choose the front plane, normal to, sketch tab, and then I'm going to choose a center rectangle. I didn't choose sketch because this will enter the sketch mode just the same. Again, we're going to choose the origin here, coincident the origin. We're going to draw out a rectangle, underdefined as it is, blue as it is. Then we're going to choose smart dimension, pick a side. I'll pick the horizontal side this time. We did a 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch cube last time, same thing this time, only we're going to add a little bit of flair to it. So then we'll click OK because again I'm lazy and maybe it's not much faster to do this relation, but whatever. I want it to change equal, so I'm going to make the equal relations on one horizontal side and one vertical side. Then over here in the features I'm going to choose the extruded boss/base, and funny enough you may hear me accidentally say boss extrude, but when you do the extruded boss/base, sure enough right here it says boss extrude. So that's kind of where I get that slip up. But the official name is extruded boss/base. So the important thing to do is choose from midplane. Again, if you choose blind, you're going to have some odd results, or you're going to have to do an additional step that I'm not going to cover in this. So you'll be left wondering what the heck you did wrong. So choose mid-plane. And then, of course, make a 1-inch cube. Voila. Here we are back to what we had last time. Wow, so many people have made a cube on YouTube. Congratulations, you and a million others. But we're going one step further in fanciness. So, what I'm going to do is choose the front plane, normal 2, using Control 8. And then I'm going to choose it. Now, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the face on this side of the cube. And then I'm going to create a reference geometry in a plane. And by default, there's some level of offset. Now, right now, it's got 1/10 of an inch offset. It'll, after this, default to some 3-inch value. Not really important, just a funky thing that I've noticed that SOLIDWORKS has done over several years' revisions. So, 1-inch cube. Sorry, we're going to do is, got a little distracted there, a little ahead of myself. We're doing a 0 offset. We want this right on that plane to be on the face of the cube. You'll see why. So we've created this plane 1. We're going to select, make sure the plane is selected, go to the Sketch tab, and this time we're going to choose Sketch. Then I'm going to click out here to make sure that nothing is selected currently. And then I'm going to choose Convert Entity because I want to do this fast. And then I'm going to click on the face of that cube. And then I'm going to hit OK. Technically the plane is kind of weird. It's invisible minus whatever the plane covers over or is behind the plane. You'll see that in later situations. So, but what you can see has happened is we've actually made a sketch on the edge of that cube. I've now created the base of, we'll call it a spike for lack of a better term. Now I'm going to exit out, choose the plane 1 again, go to the Features tab, choose a reference geometry again, another plane, and there it is. There's that magical 3-some-odd inch number there. And we'll do an offset, why don't we just call it, I don't know, 2 inches. Or why don't we just keep everything on the 1. So 1-inch offset. The next thing we'll do is make sure that plane 2 is selected, Control 8, normal 2. We'll go back to the Sketch tab, and this time I'm just going to click the center rectangle again. I'm going to choose that fancy little origin. Now you may be thinking one or two things, like how is it that, am I not going to be set, will this sketch end up in the center of the cube? No, it won't, because I'm on a plane that's offset from a face of the cube. So if this is the front plane, here's the face of the cube, so now this has become the face of the cube, and here's my offset. The origin infinitely extends out through the part. So we're going to click, drag, creates the rectangle, and in this case I'm going to make a fixed dimension endpoint to my spike, and I'm going to choose, let's say a 1/16 of an inch, 0.625. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, where I take a horizontal line and a vertical and I make them equal relations so they change equally. Another thing you can do with dimensions, by the way, is if I'm like want to do a fractional version, 1/16, you can actually do division, multiplication, and some fancy equations to get your dimension. I arrived at the same exact value there. So, you know, if you know your decimal values for your fractions, type them in that way. If you don't, like say 1/8, do 1/8. So, now we're going to close out of this, and let's develop our spike by using a fancy feature called Lofted Boss Base up here under the Features tab. So I'm going to do Lofted Boss Base. We need at least 2 sketches to create this loft off of. This feature has complex, awesome capabilities within it. We're going to keep it simple for now. So profiles, we want to make sure we're in that. And then up here in the top left, we have this teeny little arrow, which kind of gives us a secondary feature tree to look through. And we want to use sketch 2 and sketch 3. And just like that, we've started to create something. And you can see these yellow lines are twisted, which are creating the preview of this loft. Now you'll also notice how there's 2 green dots. A green dot at the bottom base sketch and at the top base sketch that we selected. Now for this, we want to keep it simple, and we want them to be on the same corner so that we have these smooth, flat, angled faces lofting up towards the smaller sketch. And then I'm going to hit OK. And just like that, we've created some spike, if you will. Zoom it out, there you can see. So you could arguably, on every single face of this cube, repeat that exact same process and take some serious time to do so, but we're going to speed things up. And again, now this is why I told you to make your cube extruded on the midplane. So we're going to choose the front plane, or whichever plane you made the original sketch on. You could arguably make it on any of the opposite planes too. But to minimize confusion, again, if you chose the front plane, stick with that. If you chose the top plane, stick with that selection. Or if you chose the right plane, choose that. Whichever one you made the original sketch on, choose that plane. In my case, it was the front plane. So I'm going to make sure the front plane is selected. Control 8. Oops, don't want to rename it. Control 8 to bring it normal to. Now again, remember, imagine this hand here is the front plane, and this is the plane in which the end of the spike is. So what we've done here is it's been in some kind of position, and I've rotated it as such so that, so that this here, which is the face of the end of the spike, and then there's the front plane. Front plane's technically behind it, right? But when you do this, they're lined up over each other, so now you're not really going to be able to tell the depth and what's going on. Trust the process. So now, again, make sure the front plane is selected, go to the Sketch tab, and I'm going to blaze right to a center line. And then I'm going to choose from the horizontal line, the midpoint. It's actually the horizontal edge, because we're not in a sketch that has a rectangle sketched. We're just referencing off of edges, which you can do in most cases. So I'm going to choose the midpoint of this horizontal edge, go down to the bottom horizontal edge, and choose that midpoint. And then I'm going to right click and hit select to end that line command. And then I'm going to repeat the process on the midpoint of the vertical edges from left to right, and then right click and select. That gets me out of the line command, for lack of a better term. Now what I've done here, since again this is on the front plane, and if you boss extrude based on midplane, you've literally made a horizontal and vertical axis in the center of the cube. How do I know? Because look at that, I can rotate and I can see it. There's going to be more precise ways of telling, especially when you go to do the next feature. So let's do that, right? Because again, I want to save time, and I don't want to make this spike a million more times using this loft feature. So I'm going to use an awesome feature, which we're going to go into the Features tab now. And over here under Linear Pattern, I'm going to use the drop down, and I'm going to choose Circular Pattern. Now the first thing I'm going to want to do once I've gone into this is, in the direction, I need to choose the axis of rotation for what's about to happen. So I've already made that here. So again, I'm going to select the vertical axis, which is going to create a 360 revolution around that. Oops, don't choose a face. It'll give you odd results, though you could. You could choose faces, edges, all kinds of things. But we want to make sure we grab this vertical axis. We want to make sure we're on equal spacing, because again, we want this to take place on all sides of the cube. We want 4 instants, which includes the original piece. And then we're going to choose under the features and faces. We don't want to choose just the face. We want to choose feature. We're now going to choose the drop down arrow to show the feature tree again, and we're going to choose the loft. And as you can see here, again, the yellow lines are kind of giving you a partial preview of what it's going to do. It's literally creating a pattern, a circular pattern around that axis we sketched of this loft. And then we will simply select OK. And look at that. I've just done the work on all these sides. I've only had to do it once, and then I can just repeat it. There would be an exception if you needed to do variable changes to a spike. There are a couple of different ways to go and to do that, but for now, I'm not going to cover that. But there was a reason why I drew a horizontal axis as well. So we're going to repeat the process. So again, we will choose the circular pattern. We're going to choose the horizontal axis this time. Make sure you're up here in the direction. And then we're going to choose the horizontal axis. Now you'll notice there is a direction. It's not going to matter because this is happening 360 degrees for this particular part. So again, we will leave it on 4 so it automatically equal spaces it. We're going to choose the loft again, but we're not just going to hit OK. There's something down here called instances to skip. Yeah, we want to skip an instance. So click in this box to make sure you're on there, and you'll see these teeny little magenta looking dots. I want to skip the instance on this face. Why? Because there's a spike already there, and if for some reason this original spike changes, or say the vertical rotating instances change but not the horizontal rotations, in other words this spike here, if this were to change for some reason, you may not see that reflection if you did not omit the instance on this horizontal rotation because it's covering over it. So that's why we're going to skip it. And now we're going to select it, and just like that, one final touch, we're going to choose that reference axis sketch. We're going to right click and hide it, and then spacebar and choose isometric view. And just like that, we've created a cube with spikes, so to speak. Thank you for watching this video. Again, I will be uploading this Friday my first tutorial video following the Beginner's Guide to SOLIDWORKS 2022, this one, Level 1. And again, I will leave a link in the description on that video where you can pick this book up to follow along. But that's it for this little basic introduction tutorial. My name is Ryan. Thank you for tuning into my channel, and I will see you next time.